and what drives you to overcome the most adverse conditions. This is, I'll just run over. I've already kind of done. Yeah. And so let me, I think I'll just share my video. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So you saw how, the situations are adverse, but how somebody is able to see a possibility and then they go all out to achieve that mission. Well, I had heard many such accounts, before I finally, from 87, 6 years later, I took a decision to join the Indian Air Force as one of the first women. We were all inducted in support roles. Combat was a distant dream. To some extent, it still is, but we were all in support roles. Nevertheless, the training, what the military gives you is something, which prepares you to actually overcome adversities, actually to take on whatever comes your way. So let me now just give you a little, sneak peek into what does a typical training day look like for a cadet at Air Force Academy, or say any academy. And let me tell you, academies like the NDA, where you have young, officers to be come in at the, tender age of 17, when most of the boys are enjoying in college or something like that, and they come and they undergo a complete 3 years of training where their mind is completely molded into a different structure. But Air Force Academy, nevertheless, is where we were. And our day was something like it would start at a little before 4 a.m. every day. And it doesn't start with a pensive, nice, meditative mood where you're very happy, but it starts with a shout for a run. And mind you, you're supposed to go for a run at 4 a.m. in the morning when you have restrictions on practically everything that you are so used to. You have restrictions on using the loo. You have restrictions on filling up water. You have to keep your surrounding, your cabin in an absolutely immaculate condition, come what may. I mean, even if it means that you get up at 3:30 and then or even earlier to make your bed, to keep everything. And your dress has to be spotless clean. And all this you're doing as a junior cadet when all your seniors or all around you are constantly screaming and shouting at you. You really look at it, and some people react initially with a lot of anger, with a lot of irritation, but you know that this is it. You have to go through it, and you do. So you go for almost a 5-kilometer run in the morning. You come back, you have about 15 minutes to quickly shower, change, and go to the parade ground. In the parade ground, you have an arms drill where you have a drill sergeant who's teaching you what to do, how to handle arms, how to march. Marching is again a very important part of military training because it brings the team together. On one command, you all just go step by step together at every move. So after the parade, you get about half an hour again, where you're supposed to get ready for your professional classes in uniform, and you also have to finish your breakfast. You are by now already, woken up at 3. You're already by this time, you're tired, you're sweating, you take a shower, you run, barely get about 5 minutes for your meals, and then you rush to your classes. So when you reach your classes, it's another challenge. You're learning your professional subjects, but it's mind you, the most difficult thing is to keep your eyes open at that time. Even if you want, as the blinds come down, your eyes start to close and you have to perform. You have to understand your professional subjects. So evening pretty much is the same. You have again your swimming, organized games, push-ups, and this continues. So this continues in an environment which is psychologically very pressurizing, because when you are in your area, you are not supposed to walk. So you keep running. I mean, when we joined as women, we were not allowed to wear colored clothes. So you're always wearing a white shirt and a white trouser or your blue uniform. So constantly, you are not granted any freedom for the initial time. And what it does to you is it puts tremendous psychological pressure. So a lot of people, go through, along with your swollen ankles, aching shoulders, teary eyes and everything, uh, you go through tremendous psychological pressure. Then, to top it all, there is something that, of course, all of us look forward to, and that is called a fieldcraft training camp. So, in a fieldcraft training camp, a cadet undergoes something like a war training. So, you are there, you again start off, you work as a team. So, a whole course is divided into teams. The team has to achieve everything, and it's like a competition. So you're pitching tents, you're running, you're doing your route marches, you're doing your fighting training, and one thing after the other with no breather. So by the end of it, I remember during my fieldcraft training camp, I was in a tent with 6 other girls, and we were sleeping on the mud floor with tarpaulin, and there was an army of ants around. And at that point in time, I used to be kind of a little mortally scared of insects. So I see this whole army of ants, but I had no energy to even, move my tarpaulin to a different location, and nor was their place. So you just say, okay, fine, I'll wear my shoes and sleep, because that's the best you can do in those situations. The point is, the training is really, what it is doing to you is it is teaching you the value of how strong your mind can be, and how we are sometimes, we take a setback from conditions which actually we have no control over, and you have to tide over them. So this is something that, the forces train you to do. And by the time you finish that 1 year, you are 100% sure that, yes, even though I started out with barely having capability of running 500 meters, today I can do a 16-kilometer. Even though I started out not knowing really, where to look for a trigger of a weapon, I mean, today I can really, fire bullseye. And I have the capability, I have the strength to do it, and umpteen other things. And that gives you the confidence of knowing that when you pass through a difficult time, 2 very important things happen. One is that your own, confidence that if I could handle this adversity or this difficult situation or this stress, I can handle multiple more in future, come what may. So, there's a very interesting Haryanvi phrase, I think it's Haryanvi, where they say, aren't they? So it is practically that, aren't they? No problem. You know that I may not understand what is coming my way, but I will be able to handle it. The second thing that it does, and does it very beautifully, is how it binds a team together. I told you that during the fieldcraft training camp, you work as a team. When you work as a team, there are very difficult tasks. You're practically crawling through, thorny bushes at times to attack an enemy target, which has some of your course mates as the enemy team, And the point that is driven home, and what we have to keep in mind, is that, remember, the chain is as strong as the weakest link. So while you never want to be the weakest link, but you are always conscious that I have to take the team together. There is no individual win. If we reach there, we reach together. We win together. We lose together. And I think that has been, by far, personally, a very phenomenal learning for me for life. So it changes you. And of course, this narrative was, just to give you a little insight into, how the armed forces prepare their people to be psychologically tough. And here again, I would add, it is something like, which you would have heard, in many of the talks, that it is mind over matter. What happens is how strong you are psychologically to withstand the physical pressures, to withstand any kind of stress. So with this, I will again, I just want to ask at this stage, does any one of you have any questions that you would like to ask, or we just move that to the end?
Yes, ma'am. There are a few questions, ma'am, without taking much of your time. So, with your wonderful experiences, wanted to ask one important part, that what were the most significant experiences and barriers that you have faced as one of the first wave of women officer in defense forces that helped shape you to be who you have become now. So we really wanted to hear it out from your side.
Okay. So yeah, this is a question that I think all of us have faced and experienced. And, there is something that while a lot of my experiences would go into the realm of how it is gender specific, and I think that is what your question also is. Okay, so I'll try to answer it in a very neutral manner. So first thing is that when there is a new situation, it is new for us. It is new for the armed forces as well. So as a woman, the most remarkable change that I found in me was what possibly every cadet, transitioning through this phase, turning into an officer, would find. And that is to get that immense confidence. And like I said, when I started out, it was, say, 500 meters, which I could run. I was never a sports person. I was the extras in the school basketball team. So not really very athletic. But by the end of it, I was doing a 16-kilometer every week. I mean, on a single stretch. And we had to do this 16 kilometers repeatedly every week. So that was something, when it dawned upon me that, oh my God, look what I've done. That was a confidence booster. Similarly, my first experience at firing a weapon. So I was aiming, and actually as I fired, I closed my eyes because the sound was too loud. And then you're actually lying down and your feet are facing outward. And then there is a guy who's teaching us all this, our drill master. And he literally he kicks you on your feet. And he says, stop behaving like a sissy. It's a very, you look at it, it's a very, it's not something politically right in the outside world, but there I was in a man's world. And if I didn't catch up, I wouldn't pass out. And I think, the biggest takeaway for me was that you overcome each and everything. It could be as, small as running the next 500 meters or firing a weapon which has a loud, noise, or staying away from your family. And I came from a background, though my family is a complete military family, I never had anybody shouting at me ever. But here I was, at every drop of a hat, somebody would just come and shout. But the point is, you also realize, what is it doing to you? It is just increasing your resilience. It is increasing your, mental stamina to take on whatever comes. And most of the times, we are not able to control what is outside of us. So what you have to do is you build yourself up. So does that answer what you were looking for? Maybe in a very short.
Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. It's so encouraging word from your end. Wonderful experience. Just wanted to ask one more question, ma'am. How do you suggest, maybe develop a strong mentality to be ready for adversities and surface as a leader?
Yeah. So there are quite a few things around that, I think. but which of course I'm going to cover towards the end of my talk also. You know, there is this, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, but there is this something which they call, you know, an attitude of resilience and hardiness. So what really is hardiness, you know? Hardiness is basically how any person, military or otherwise, faces any stressful situations or faces any, you know, big disasters or anything at all. I mean, so the point is that if you have that attitude of hardiness, you know, you are able to actually overlook the stressors, control your mind, control your body, and achieve whatever you set out to be. The adversities, the negatives, you know, things which go out of control will continue to happen. I mean, we are seeing it. And that is why I think I've got this opportunity to speak to you online and not in person. I mean, today's situation is pretty much the same. We've got a virus which has just caught us all off guard. We aren't able to control it. We really don't know where it is going to reach. So all situations, you know, which they call it typically a VUCA situation is here in front of us. So I think developing hardiness, and as we go towards, you know, the end of my talk, I will also talk about what are those very important things that we can do to increase or to, you know, inculcate this attitude in us.
Great, great. Thank you so much for this these lovely answers, ma'am. We can proceed with the presentation, ma'am, please.
Yeah. So let me just take a little peek at, I'll just catch up on what I was thinking of. Yeah. So I, of course, you know, gave you a little insight into what we were going through, and yeah. So there's something interesting, you know, that I'll share with the audience. So, you know, while, and this is related to the gender question itself, while we were at the academy, I told you we were not allowed to wear colored clothes at all for many months altogether. We were not allowed to go out, and we were not, I mean, we were all, you know, women who had done our college and, you know, masters or whatever, and then come, and we were not kids. And colors are something women love. So, but no, we were not allowed. So what happened that after about when we passed our drill test, we were allowed to watch a movie. A lot of you might have seen it, Khalnayak. So Khalnayak has this song where Madhuri Dixit comes and she does that kuk kuk, the Choli ke Piche song. So if you see the scene, it's a very, very colorful scene. I mean, there are reds and blues, and, you know, Madhuri is wearing a beautiful red outfit. And believe you me, you know, the happiness that we got watching that color on the screen is something that I'm sure none of us have forgotten. So what I'm saying is that, you know, you also learn through these difficult times how to be, you know, full of gratitude, full of happiness at very small things in life, which I think even in these difficult times, all of us, our lives are filled with those. Yes, there are problems and they can't be wished away. But do you get my point that, you know, such a simple thing, which we normally ignore. So moving further, I will now, what I will do is that I'll just, you know, after this training, I'll give you another, I'm just give me a second. Yeah. So I will give you another insight through a very interesting experience. That is, we all know, and, you know, we kind of believe that we must, as a team, support each other. But what is that very important thing, which is important in really letting that support come from within? So I'll narrate that while I was posted at one of the forward bases in East, that was my first posting, I got an opportunity to fly in a fighter aircraft. Now, I'm not a pilot. So it was a very unique opportunity. And through that, when I went up in the sky and experienced the G-forces that our pilots experienced, it was something out of the world. I had never thought it's going to be so strenuous. So I had, the blood gushing down my face. It's not inside, you get that feeling. You're sweating profusely. You have this gray out happening. You're not able to really, because the blood flow to your mind. So you have this, the lights are going out and you are in a combat situation. While I was not doing anything, but I experienced what our pilots go through when they are up in the air. And that day, something very drastic changed in me, that I became a firm believer that when we start understanding the other's circumstances, it actually empowers us to support them well. From that day onwards, nobody would tell me, but I used to make sure that everything for that pilot, everything for the squadron is at 100%, so that, they are not bothered by what is going to bother them on ground, because they need to keep their mind, free and agile when they are in the air. And mind you, it is, supersonic speeds. I mean, such a agile environment, and you have to take split-second decisions, where this one wrong decision means the difference between life and death, not just for you, but for another person. So, that was another very great understanding that I got through very early in my career. And from there, what I want to, and you must be, wondering, yeah, these are things I know all of us experience. But from here, there was still this little gnawing feeling that I haven't seen real combat. So finally, about six years from then time is when Kargil happened. So, a soldier is always somewhere at the back of their mind, while it's a difficult situation, but you want to be part of something grand, something big, it's that need for, achieving something very nice. So Kargil happened, and unfortunately at that time, I was in the desert sector. So I was not at Kargil where all the action was happening. So, as young people, I remember feeling a little dejected. Kya hai yaar, wahan hona chahiye tha. I mean, not realizing that yes, there are. I mean, there are tremendous, things for the first time that are happening at in between those mountains. Air Force was being used the first time. People were really, actually making tactics, how to operate fighter aircraft at those heights, between the peaks, targeting the bunkers using, laser guided bombs and what all. But here we were in the desert sector. We had to be at 100% alert in our operations. So there is something called an ORP, an operations readiness platform, which is mounted at every forward base. So what it means is that there are fighter aircraft which are in readiness to take off within 2 minutes. And when I say 2 minutes, it is not ki 2 minute mein aayi wala 2 minute, but it's actually 60 seconds. So within 60 seconds, at the call from the ops room, the pilots are supposed to take off. Now the pilots are sitting with their G-suits, with their boots on, and mentally alert so that they can do this. But there is a whole lot of, those anonymous people who are actually supporting them. So there is a whole team of technicians who work to keep the aircraft loaded, ready for takeoff. There are the ATC people, there are the runway controllers, there are the runway support teams, the emergency services, which are completely, waiting on for any emergency. The runway facilities are maintained by another team. Then we had the air defense controllers. The air defense controllers have a very, very tricky task. They're sitting in a dark ops room, watching screens and waiting for that unknown blip, which could be an enemy aircraft. And you have to be very sure about it, because you could be seeing a blip, which is your own aircraft. So this was the scenario in desert. We were not into active operations, but we were on a red alert. We were completely, in an ops state for war. because should there be any misdemeanor at that time, we have to be ready, and you cannot afford to fail, because one person fails, the mission fails. So this was something like a scenario, and I mean, now when I think back, the kind of motivation that is there, because we were say in a forward base of Rajasthan. It was, you all remember, Kargil happened from somewhere like mid-May to about July. So, scorching heat in Rajasthan. And since a lot of our squadrons moved to forward bases for a contingency like this, the accommodation at times is used to be a problem, because India was not economically as strong as it is today. So, I remember feeling that whatever it is, I'm still a part of something big. And I remember, our pilots at times would be talking to the technicians, 50 degrees, hot tarmac, and there is an aircraft, a MiG-21 or a MiG-27, and he's sitting with the technicians, because that keeps them also motivated. And at times they would just, put their helmet and just sleep under the wing of the aircraft. So, that is where, you feel that, okay, what is it that I can do to, support this? And I think that becomes your takeaway for life, because that's how you then start thinking, how can I support this man? And that is a feeling of achievement in itself, that I have been able to do something which has contributed to the mission. So at this stage, I will just, just see if I can share my presentation. Yeah. So, now I'll come to that quality of hardiness that I was speaking about. So you all know that it's inherent in profession of arms to have these stressors. You could have adverse conditions, like I said, sleeping under the wing of an aircraft on a hot tarmac, 50 degrees in the month of May in Rajasthan. You could have a risk to life and limb, which is a very common thing. It can happen to anybody, but the odds and the probability in the profession of arms is much higher. You have separation from family. You can't really be, it's a given, because you're deployed on places where you wouldn't want your family to be with you. You could have career stagnation in armed forces, which could be a stressor. You do have performance pressure because of your steep pyramid. You lead a nomadic life, so you really don't grow roots anywhere. By the time your folks back home have such strong connections outside in the society, you miss out on that part. So all these or anything, could be a stressor. And I'm sure a lot of these stressors and many more are there in everyone's life. So I read this quote somewhere where they say military trains 1,000 hours to handle a disaster situation of absolute chaos, maybe only 30 minutes. And there too, those 30 minutes may never be as you ever thought. So this is something that I, really wanted to share. And this, while we train for it, each situation comes across as a different one. And I'm sure that even if you are not trained as a military person, life could present you with situations, with chaos, with, unexpected circumstances, which even though you have thought about, okay, I can do this, I can do that, it may just turn out to be as what you have never thought. So what is this magic mantra, of having the mind over body? So just a small break here. Can I close this window? On my screen, I don't know if you can.
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, so, oh no, this is not the right one then. Fine, no problem. I'll continue, I think. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, what is this magic mantra of having, mind over body, and how do you achieve it? So the important and one of the most, I'm not like, I'm just handling this part of what is it which makes you more resilient, more hardy. So when it comes to, just give me a second, I think I'm just getting distracted by the screen. So when it comes to hardiness, there are two aspects that we have to certainly look at. One is the physiological, that means your physical strength and wellness. And the second is the psychological. Now, what the scientists who study this, or the psychologists world over, have found that the psychological hardiness is a very important factor. I mean, in fact, if you see the hierarchy, they would say psychological hardiness is more important than the physical hardiness. But both are important. That means your physical strength, your physical well-being, like, we all heard as kids, sound mind in a sound body. So the sound body is very, very important. It is important for military, and it is important for every one of you, every one of us. So what the next question that, automatically comes is, what can we do to develop this hardiness or this resilience? So in military, there are three to four actually things which, you kind of, which I zeroed in on, which you do. One is commitment. Commitment also means that whatever are the circumstances, you're curious, you're interested in your environment, you're committed to a mission, you're committed to a purpose. So this applies across board to military and to anybody else, that you have to find a meaning in whatever is happening around you. If you don't do that, the mind starts playing games. And mind you, our mind is the most interesting player as far as games are concerned. So the better is to play a game which, propels you to the positive side rather than getting onto a negative spiral. So it is something that you train your mind for. So be interested, be curious in your environment, in your surroundings, and find meaning in what's happening around you, find meaning in what you're doing. You could be doing the most mundane task. And let me narrate a very beautiful incident here. Years ago, I'm sure you all must have heard of the Indian aerobatic team, the Surikirans. So Surikirans were performing in an airbase near Delhi, which is called Hindon, Air Force Station Hindon. And they were performing with a team of Red Arrows, which is the Royal Air Force aerobatic team. While at that point in time, the Indian team used to fly the Kirans, which were Indian made. The British team used to fly Hawks. As of now, Indian Air Force also has Hawk aircraft, and it's a very, savvy aircraft. So obviously, when we had a newer aircraft, so, everybody from the team was on, they wanted to see this new aircraft. So when you have to get into the Hawk, while there is a ladder for the cockpit, but for there is a way in which you always step over the wing to get into the cockpit. So there was this lady in her bright red overall from one of their, the air women, as they call them. Her role, she was possibly from a technical team, or I don't know whatever they called her. But her job was that every time somebody stepped onto the wing, and as they moved away, she would wipe the marks of the shoes. So one of my colleagues, as he stepped in, so he asked her, he says, why are you wiping it every time? You could also wait for all of us to, finish this and then wipe it once and for all. So there was a very beautiful answer that she gave, and this is a real thing, okay? So she said, sir, my job is to keep this wing shining. And every time you step, I will wipe it because I cannot see this not clean at any given time. And that, coming from, such a simple young, from one of those technical stuff, or I don't know if she was technical also or not. But what a beautiful thought. She found meaning and focus on what she was to do. Somebody could really take it as that, ये क्या काम है, मुझे उनके जूतों के मार्क साफ करने हैं. But this was, a very nice young British woman standing there and cleaning this. And what a way to get motivated. She said, I cannot see my wing not shining for a minute. So every time everybody spends, she will do this. Another strategy or another part of this hardiness is the control, The best is just do it. Control means that you are trying to take some action to influence your outcomes. So how do you do it? If you look at too many things, I watch the television and I look at economy is going down and this is happening. Brazil has got the maximum surge in COVID cases in last one day. Russia is this thing. We are 4th on the list. Too many things are happening. Sometimes, this is a very unrelated example, but too many times our mind gets, distracted by a whole lot which is happening around us. It is also possible that you're sitting and you're thinking, yeah, I'm not a pilot, I'm not flying, so what is there? So at that time, the best thing is to do is focus on what you can do and not what's out of your control. The best is just do it and try to influence the circumstances. You may or may not achieve the result. And this is something which I think as Indians, all of us have learned it from the Gita, isn't it? So the third is that accept that the change is real. This is something which is drilled into us day in and day out, whether it is as mundane as, how the environment of a station changes when a new commander takes over to, you are flying in the air and all of a sudden there is a weather condition where, everything changes. Or it is that you have planned a certain project and, there are factors like a local strike or something that comes in and all your plans go for a toss. So you have to accept that the change is real and you have to face it head on is what I think you gather by your training. So that is, when they say that failures are preludes to winning, mistakes are the opportunities to learn. What you learn from one mistake is not what you can learn from 10 books. The fourth very important thing that I realized, and I covered it during my talk with you, was also that the social support, any team which faces adversity together stays strong and connected by trust forever. So encourage, social support, encourage collaboration through thick and thin. So this is something that military does very well. Come what may. My people, my team, my social, setup, when officers are away, there is somebody to fall back on. There is somebody who's supporting your family, even though you're missing them. But you don't really have to worry about kya hoga, because you're very sure that there is somebody standing in. This is my family, and the family is really extended. So in any difficult circumstances, when you develop a social support, that increases your resilience, that increases your hardiness. And among all this, to say that, when you bring in discipline, routine, physical fitness into your life, automatically the kind of hormones which I'm sure a lot among the teens would have read about, the kind of hormones that are released into your brain are the ones which will, give you that strength where your mind will be able to, overcome what your body limitations are or what your circumstantial limitations are and focus on the positive all the time. So, well, this is, I think, what I wanted to just share with you all. So I would again invite, if there are any questions, I would be very pleased to answer them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We
There's
have
a last
one question here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, ma'am, just to wind up the things, what are the best of Fauji and corporate mantra that lift you actually? It can be a really wonderful, we can get an answer from your end on this.
Could you just repeat your question again?
What are some of your favorite corporate and Fauji mantras that lift you up, ma'am? Whenever you're down, like the favorite of yours.
Okay, so like I summed up in my last slide, and I think that is something which is very important. So the first that I follow is that change is inevitable. So face it head on. The second is that if I have done it in the past, I can and I will do it in the future. So what I mean by that is that, once your mind has crossed a particular boundary and say that, yes, I am able to tide over such and such situation, I know that I can do it in the past and there is nothing that can stop me for it. There are no limitations to the mind. So whether it is corporate, whether it is the third and the very important is that your team is your strength. And I think building people up so that your weakest link becomes strong, because the thing to remember is that a chain is as strong as the weakest link. So when you really want a strong team, build up your weakest person. So this is maybe in a nutshell I can just share.
Right,
discipline,
ma'am.
like I said, I mean, that is a given. So
Right. Thank you so very much, ma'am. It was a roller coaster of an experience just hearing you talk. With today's webinar, you've not only given us an insight about the kind of lives that the brave uniforms lead to keep us safe, the general public, but you've also sparked the flame within to adopt this winner mentality and to not give up in these times of distress. We are very, very grateful for your service to the nation, ma'am. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to an end of our webinar today. You have been a great audience. Thank you so very much. Wish all of you good health. Please be safe. And thank you all. Right, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for being there. I would have loved to interact with you face to face and have, more questions or whatever you may, because that would have been more of, sharing your experiences and mine.
Absolutely.
But maybe we can reserve it for a better time later on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So all the best to you all. And thank you very much for listening in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We are honored. We are really honored. Thank you so very much for giving your time to us, ma'am. It was wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much.
No,
Thanks a lot.
The pleasure has been mine. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you.